This is the FunBelt podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts to Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Razor, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sunbelt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating.
So, guys, you heard Shane in the promo. He said, and I quote, "I think potentially it's going to be a good week for the Sun Belt." And never has that statement been more true, more salient, more pregnant with meaning than right now, Tibbs. Sun Belt tournament, men's and women's tournament, the gauntlet, the Hunger Games version of Sun Belt basketball, shaped like a spearhead or perhaps like an Imperial Star Cruiser. The ultimate tournament bracket is here, Tibbs. I cannot wait. Tomorrow at Tuesday, the games begin. It's Louisiana versus ULM. Wow, in-state rivalry right away. And then it's Southern Miss versus Coastal, which don't have a lot of history together, but damn, it's going to be a great game. I am pumped up, Shane Metlin. Tell me you're as pumped up as I am.
I'm pretty pumped up. I got a long drive to Pensacola, but
Okay.
Other than that, I'm pumped.
So when are you going to Pensacola?
Saturday.
Okay. So you're waiting a little bit. You're not doing the whole shebang.
They don't want to pay for a whole lot of nights in a hotel for me if Jamie's not playing. So
just bring a tent.
Yeah,
or yurt. Yeah, you could yurt out there on the beach. I think that would be pretty nice. Yeah, that would be really good. Anyway, but yeah. All right, guys, I have a nickname for the first 4 games, or the first 2 games, I guess. I call it the Diggstown division. You guys ever watch Diggstown?
No, what is that?
You've never seen Diggstown?
I haven't. It's a hole in my resume.
All right, well, Diggstown was a movie that I think they filmed it in the 90s. It stars like James Wood. You know him. He's a little crazy now. And Louis Gossett Jr. And the premise is that Louis Gossett Jr. has to fight 10 guys in one day in a town called Diggstown, and he has to beat them all. And that's what for the first 4 guys in this tournament, that's what this tournament's like. It's like fighting 10 guys in one day, only it's 7 games in 7 days to be the champion. This is the Diggstown division, and it's glorious.
I'm just wanting to say, because of our DMs blowing up and mentions on the X, Marshall is game 2 for the women at 2 p.m. on Central Time, ESPN. Okay. So I hope that Marshall is all about Marshall and Marshall.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good way for us to, for word search, to get us up higher in the Google search. When somebody goes looking for Marshall, they'll find us. Yeah, but Marshall. I think for the men, we'll talk about Marshall fairly soon.
I don't think Marshall will repeat as the women's champions. That's not something I think Marshall will do this year.
Marshall can do that.
But the Marshall men, I think, could have a fairly decent showing for, where Marshall is in the seeding and, what we've seen from the Thundering Herd. I think Marshall could possibly win a game or 2.
Definitely.
And they're on the opposite side. They're on the opposite side of ULM. Oh, I forgot. We're not allowed to talk about ULM because they're no longer in the Sun Belt, apparently, nor is Arkansas State. It's all about Marshall and their mysterious quarterfinal game against a school from northwestern Arkansas.
Why is Tibbs so bitter about this? Shane, can you help me out? Can you understand or break this down? Shane's bitterness, or not your bitterness, I'm sorry, Thibodeau's bitterness?
Well, I don't necessarily have bitterness about it, but I did kind of share the I don't know the confusion, the idea that like we don't talk about Marshall. I feel like we do.
All right, now listen. Let's
we all have our area of expertise,
right? And let's
we know the teams that we're around the most. So like obviously sometimes like the comparisons come in and everything, but like I think we make an effort to get around the league.
And let's just face it, like for football season, the Thunder Herd kind of snuck up on us. Nobody was really paying attention to the Herd, and then all of a sudden they won like 7 or 8 games in a row. So yes,
Damn it, Jeremy,
we're not seeing that. Yeah,
it is time to marshal in a new era on FunBelt podcast.
Now, don't you feel like you're forcing this a little bit now, Tibbs?
Let me also say on Netlin, my spinoff of the FunBelt podcast,
where he separates himself from us.
I was trying to hunt down OT Elmore to be a guest, and I just wasn't able to find the contact information for him.
Okay. So it's their fault. That
nobody's fault. Just something that didn't happen, but Marshall was on my mind.
Like to me, you're blaming Marshall for Marshall not getting the attention.
No, I didn't
crave so much.
I tried to, connect on social and stuff, and
I'm just trying to give you another enemy for which you can fight online.
No, but I'm just saying that I had Marshall on my mind for that podcast. So,
all right, now let me ask you this. Let me take out my lasso and pull this back in, Tibbs. Of the games that we're going to see Tuesday, which of the 4 teams have the greatest chance of the Diggstown Challenge winning 7 games?
Oh.
It doesn't look great. I'll tell you the truth. ULM thin. I mean, they just have nobody left on that bench. I mean, they can give you a good half, and then they just kind of collapse.
Maybe the spirit of Bob Marlin comes back and helps the Cajuns.
Well, maybe, I don't know. But the Cajuns, they're terrible on the perimeter. They can't shoot outside. They can't guard outside. Southern Miss, they lose Curbillo. My God, he was one of their best players. And then, I don't know, Coastal. Coastal at the beginning of the year, I thought was going to be pretty good because they got those 2 big 7-footers, one of them from Missouri. So, you can't coach size. And I'm just going to admit it. I'm a little enamored by 7-footers. I just feel like instantly you're just going to get a boost if you have a 7-footer. Never more wrong when it came to Coastal Carolina. Shane, you're Mr. Netlin. Who's coming out of this and possibly causing some mayhem?
Louisiana would probably be my pick of those ones that are down there. Maybe mostly just because I feel like, they've got the interim coach that they seem to have responded to a little bit. And it's got to be hard to get your team ready to play for these games, knowing that it's like basically impossible to win 7 games in 7 days.
I think there's 2 types of guys, Shane. I think there's the guy that really responds to that challenge, like, come on, guys, we're going to do this. We're going to win 7 games. And then the other guys are like, you know what? If we lose now, we probably get a little more beach time. So,
yeah, I'll just put it this way. Down in Pensacola a year ago, every once in a while you'll run, if you go have a beverage after all the games are over, you'll run into some players who are done for the week, and sometimes they don't look all that disappointed to be back.
That is a Shane Metlin exclusive.
And I won't say which team I'm talking about last year.
Was it
no.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so I think it's got to be kind of tough to get motivated for these early round games. But I do think Louisiana, they responded to having an interim coach. They probably want him to keep the job. They probably, maybe, even if they're not playing for let's win a championship, realistically, they might be playing like, hey, let's win a couple games and give this guy a shot. So that'd be my pick.
So you feel like they have some motivation to win a few games.
That's what my pick. I feel like if you're going to get a team that's going to rally around something, that's probably the one.
All right.
So you think the ULM and Richard's last ever game or potential last ever game?
It's not even maybe a lack of motivation for them. It's just like, well, nobody's going to win 7 games in 7 days. ULM in particular is not going to win 7 games in 7 days with 7 players.
It's magic. It lines up. If this tournament was in Biloxi with the casinos, I'd be like ULM lucky all day long. 777.
Perfect story if they do it. Lucky sevens. You're
Oh,
right.
wouldn't that be great? Yeah, but I tell you what, though, here's why I think ULM has a chance in this game. ULM can shoot the rock from the outside. They got a couple guys who can shoot, and the Cajuns are just not good at perimeter defense, nor are they good at rebounding. And if I recall, Tibbs, you guys got you have the Warhawks they have a guy that's kind of a big lug who can get some rebounds. I think ULM could possibly win that game.
Are we talking about who's going to win one game, or are we talking about who's going to make a run? Because that's different questions to me.
All right. Yes, I'm sorry. I lost my focus, Shane.
On a given night, but
yeah, ULM's not going to make a run, right? I get that.
But 3 days in, they're going to be totally gassed. Like there's no way around it.
All right, Tips. Who's the guy? Who's among these four, if they should move on, would create the most trouble in the Galactic Star Cruiser of Death?
I gotta think that if ULM can get past the Cajuns, Old Dominion, they match up pretty well against. That they could make some noise. I think that 2 and done is a stretch, but I like them being kind of the dark horse. Maybe I'm just anti-Marshall when I think that, but the team that I think has the chance to kind of go from the furthest left part of the bracket over. I'm actually going to go with Dustin Kearns and App State.
Yeah.
They have buys to the 4th round, which is crazy to me that we're talking 4th round, but that's the middle of the bracket. That gives them a chance that they would have to square off against most likely Texas State or Old Dominion, ULM, Cajuns winner. But I really like that App State team. Love some Dustin Kearns. Think that could be the team that is the big shocker on the left side of the bracket.
Yeah, but Tibbs, you know what? That was excellent analysis. And I happen to agree with you about Appalachian State. But you have missed the assignment, my man.
Yeah, I didn't know we were talking about teams that
we're talking about the first 4 guys. Who amongst them are the most likely to cause problems?
I don't want to pick any of them.
You could have made friends with a fan base, but no, you chose entropy and violence.
Yeah, no, I mean maybe Southern Miss on the top side of the bracket, just because they seem to always surge a little bit in Pensacola.
Ooh, okay.
And while they're never dancing around on the weekends, they do dance around a little bit during the tournament.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. They lose Corbello, maybe a moment of addition by subtraction. And they still, in my opinion, of the 4 teams there, the best player out of those 4 belongs on Southern Miss, and that's Denna J. Harris. That's my opinion. You guys might have a different opinion on that. So to me, if there's any team that claws themselves out of that molten lava and then maybe causes a scare in the middle rounds, it might be Southern Miss. Shane Metlin, I understand what you say about the Cajuns, but my pick's going to be Southern Miss on that. I think Tibbs agreed with me. Tibbs, did you actually agree?
Yeah, I picked Southern Miss.
You and me, Tibbs, we are one mind. Metlin, I'm sorry, but you're by yourself.
All right.
All right, what did you think about what Tibbs said about the middle guys? The Appalachian states. I have an opinion on that too.
Yeah, I mean, where are we starting in the middle? Are we talking about number
right after the Digstown round,
up, or
right after the Digstown round is the middle? I'm considering. Was it 10 through all the way up to 5? Right, 10 and 5. Right.
Okay. I mean, App State's already mentioned. Marshall's maybe like the obvious choice with App State. So I'm going to go Texas State just to be a little bit different with for one, they always seem to make a little bit of a run higher than their seed. And 2, they've just, they've been beating some good teams lately.
They have.
They did it in San Marcos, so it's a little bit different, but I think they could win a couple games.
Yeah, they're kind of in my my dark horse group. Like the Texas, they got Tylen Pope, they got Benson who can shoot lights out from three. They've got guys, and they show that they can beat guys. Yeah, it was in San Marcos, and that makes it a little bit different, but not that much different. So I feel like they're kind of one of the hotter teams coming in, Tibbs.
Texas State, I mean, how can you go wrong picking against the Viva La Bobcats? I mean, we've anointed them time and time again. They're no Marshall, but they're a close second in our hearts. The other team that I really think would be interesting to watch is going to be Georgia State.
Oh,
When they were hot, they were maybe one of the better teams in the league, but they didn't really have that consistency to be able to win the 5 games that it would take for them to be able to be dancing in the NCAA tournament.
yeah, they lost their last 2 games of the season, Tibbs, but I think it was by a total of 5. Like the last game, they lost to Georgia Southern by 1. And I can't remember the other team they played. They lost by 4. So they lost close games, those last 2. And I really thought that there were going to be a lot of problems when they ripped off their nice little win streak. So yeah, I think you're right. Georgia State, if they can get over that hump of losing those last 2 games, if they can shake that off, they could be a lot of trouble. Do we think Marshall is the consensus favorite? But in the middle rounds, we think Marshall's the team.
App State.
You think App State? Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of like even ground with those two, I think.
Yeah.
App State didn't finish strong, but they were shooting so well early in conference play. You kind of knew they couldn't keep that up for 18 games.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows they could get hot again for a couple games here. So I do like App State, but Marshall's also got the rim protection. Defense is going to be important in this tournament. I kind of like Marshall's ability to win a few games.
Yeah, Obina, have any of you seen in action Obina Onicelli killing? I don't know if I butchered that name, but have you guys seen him in action?
Yes.
I have not.
He's outstanding. He's really good. Okay, so he averages 3 blocks a game. The next guy, 1.5. So he has like doubled the amount of blocks per game. And he was a block machine against Arkansas State. It was incredible to watch that guy.
Who do you think overall is lifting the really big hardware from Commissioner Keith Gill on the following week? And we'll actually in next episode be able to pick, once we're kind of down to that final 4, who we think is going to be able to win. But right now, before the tournament really tips off, who's lifting the trophy? Shane?
I'd say Arkansas State's the favorite, even as the 4 seed. They have the best non-conference wins. I think when they're locked in, they're the best team in the conference. And I don't know we saw them locked in the last couple weeks of the regular season, but I think they're also, maybe they were just waiting to get to Pensacola to really show what they could do. They lost the championship game last year. They've got that motivational factor. They brought back all those guys who were there for that, which is a motivation. And it's also just shows you they've got that continuity and know how to play in this tournament. And I really just think that their ceiling is the highest in the Sun Belt. They play their best. I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I think the Red Wolves do have a really good, on the outside, good resume. They've got the 1 tier 1 win. They've got more tier 2 wins than anybody else in the Sun Belt. However, the top 4 and then with Marshall in there too, those are all teams that have beaten Arkansas State in the regular season, which is enough to give anybody some pause. Now, Arkansas State is a Bet Online favorite to win the Sun Belt tournament, which I thought was very interesting, but they're not my favorite to win. I actually think South Alabama might be better suited to win this tournament. So I'm kind of looking more at South Alabama with their tough interior defense. I'm a big fan of Dunning Jr., Barry Dunning Jr. I just think he's a really good basketball player. No offense to James Madison. I think James Madison has a lot of great shooters. I just think that this is the year for South Bama. Tibbs, break this tie.
I'm not falling for that South Alabama trap again, like we've done so many times in the past.
Okay.
I like the Big Purple Machine. I like James Madison. Where they sit, I feel like they are primed to advance to that championship game. Maybe Arkansas State can get a win against them in that championship game, but I think that's a team that's just really going to be tough to stop.
Yeah.
Jeremy's got a good point about JMU in that they only have to win 2 games and they could get really hot from 3 for 2 games. And that could carry them past some teams that maybe are a little bit better, honestly, than them. But if they're hitting 12 threes, it's kind of an equalizer. I also say X factor when it comes to South Alabama, thinking about their run a couple of years ago when they went to the championship game, is that them kind of being the de facto home team.
Yes.
You saw that 2 years ago when they made a surprise run, that it was kind of like there's a few more fans here every day for South Alabama. To the time they got to the championship game, it was a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, we shouldn't forget that.
This year, they can plan on it. They don't have to be there till Saturday or Sunday. They don't have to book hotel rooms if they're going last minute and thinking that, I want to go see us win a championship. It's easy drive over. So it could be almost a home game for them in the championship if they win on Sunday.
Well, Shane, help me understand this. How did James Madison lose to Texas State? I didn't get to watch the game. So how did that happen? How did that unfold?
It was a few things happened. I mean, they got in some foul trouble. They didn't have their backup center, Ebenezer Dewana. So when a couple other big guys fouled out in double overtime, they just really couldn't keep up in the double overtime. Texas State shot lights out second half. They shot 71% after halftime.
Dang.
Part of that was, not superb defense, but, part of that is like, it's hard to shoot 71% in an empty gym. So it's, lights out there. It was one of those losses, I think, for JMU, like, you step away from that like, oh man, we could have won outright. That's disappointing, but it's also not a loss that they necessarily is just going to devastate them, because it was kind of some weird things happened that ended up doing it, and kind of move on from that one. So we'll see how they respond after waiting 9 days to play a game, though.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. It'll be interesting to see if that's a detriment or a benefit. But yeah, and then the result is it's a 4-team tie. It's not really a 4-team tie. Really, it's James Madison's number 1 and South Alabama's number 2.
I am not a fan of the tie when even the SEC had a televised coin flip to determine who the number 1 team was in women's basketball. I get it. Give everybody a trophy. Okay, great, fantastic. But there's only one champion that you can really have. And I think that you got to keep going down the list to break the ties and come up with who that champion is.
Yeah, I agree. And by that metric, Arkansas State was the 4th best team.
Yeah.
And James Madison was the best. So in my opinion, congratulations to James Madison for winning the regular.
South Alabama's the 1 seed.
Oh, are they? My bad. God, what's wrong?
But
congratulations, South Alabama, for winning the Sun Belt.
The one thing I would say about it, though, is you don't have – it's as close as you can get with this conference setup, but you don't have entirely balanced schedules. So, JMU benefits a little bit from playing both Troy and Arkansas State at home and not having to go there. Whereas, Arkansas State's got to play road games at South Alabama and Troy. And so, I mean, in that regard, I could see like just declaring it a 4-way tie, and everybody gets their trophy, and which is what happens. But South Alabama, I think, did earn their number 1 seed because they really took care of business against those top teams.
Yeah, they South Alabama's out there cutting the nets. Did you see the video?
Yeah.
Which I thought, I don't know, that's a little over the top.
I'm not sure I would have approved that video going up before the tournament.
It seems like a good way to get a little bit of locker room motivation. But anyway, it starts tomorrow. Tips, do you remember, did the game start early? The women start earlier. They start more in the afternoon, right?
The women are early. They have the 11:30 slot on ESPN Plus, 11:30 and 2. Men are at 5:30 and 7:30.
Okay, great. So we'll be catching that and watching that. I have some lacrosse obligations that might prevent me from watching some of these basketball games. So I might be watching on. So I announced the lacrosse games. So I might be watching my basketball as I'm announcing lacrosse. So wish me luck on that.
Don't get those confused.
So what's the intrigue, Metlin, on the women's side? I think it's JMU, obviously the favorite, Arkansas State, the sort of plucky up and comer, and you've got teams like Troy and Coastal Carolina behind them. What's the storyline?
I mean, I think it's if JMU can kind of finish off the perfect season with 2 more in the tournament. I'd pretty heavy favorite this time around, I think, based on what they did in the regular season. But I do kind of wonder what Troy, and even maybe to a bigger degree, Coastal Carolina with their pressing defenses, if you can rattle somebody with that a little bit. Although Jamie's done a much better job handling press this year than they did last year against Marshall and teams like that. But if you got the Coastal Chaos coming out and, maybe you force 5 or 6 turnovers in the first few minutes, maybe you rattle a team like JMU with the pressure on. And so that's kind of the storyline I'm looking at. Not that Arkansas State, Troy, even Louisiana, some of these teams aren't capable, but it's that press that Coastal really likes to play that kind of makes me think is the possible X factor.
Ooh, we'll be taking a look at that. Wait, Tibbs, we talked a little bit about the Cajun women before, how they have that potential. We witnessed them absolutely destroy Troy. That just seemed to come out of blue. Are the Cajuns a team to look out for in this women's tournament?
Yeah, we talked about on the men's side, the middle of the bracket. I think that they're one of the more dangerous teams in the middle. The other team I like is on the top side of the bracket, in Old Dominion. I feel like that they've just really been able to play complete games time and time again. That's why they got the 5 seed. They would be able to face that Coastal Carolina team as Metlin so graciously talked about, and then James Madison in the final. I think the one team, though, that if we want to start talking about upsets and teams on the far left side that could make some noise, I like Southern Miss.
Oh, okay.
They have playing for the coach that's retiring, McNillis, Brooks Donald Williamson, former ULM head coach, really auditioning for a head coaching job back in the Sun Belt there. I think she's going to throw the kitchen sink at Georgia Southern and set up that second round game against ULM again.
All right, one last thing before we kind of move on to some of the Sun Belt honors. I want to throw back to the men's tournament real quick. You got $5 and you open up your betonline.com account. Which team has the most chance of making you rich?
The Warhawks got the best chance of making you rich.
Well, yeah, the odds speaking could make you rich. Yeah. I put a little money on. I think I put $5 on. What was it? Texas State. I might have done that for. So
I don't know, how rich are we trying to get? Because I didn't bet on Arkansas State mainly because the payout's not there.
Yeah, that's not worth it.
You can get a little bit of a return on South Alabama, even though that's not a huge upset. I think Marshall was one that looked a little intriguing. I can't remember what what it was, but they were one that looked a little intriguing as like a team that could actually win it that also paid out a little bit.
Yeah, let's see if I can find those odds real quick. Let's see. All right. I know I posted it with you guys just to kind of brag a little bit. So Arkansas State, they got the plus 175. I don't even know what these things mean. Monroe obviously has Old Dominion, Old Dominion, and Coastal Carolina and Louisiana all have the same Southern Miss, all have the same odds. But yeah, for some reason, Marshall, the Thundering Herd, a little worse odds than Appalachian State. So yeah, those could be good bets. All right, hey, guys, you know what? The Sun Belt announced their postseason first, second, and third teams and their big individual awards. I'm just going to go through the individual awards real quick, and I like to get you guys' reaction to them. So the Player of the Year, Tayton Connerway out of Troy. Defensive Player of the Year, Obina and Ocelli Killen, I think, out of Marshall with all his blocks. Newcomer of the Year, Mark Freeman from James Madison. He was also, no. The Freshman of the Year is Bryce Lindsey, and the Sixth Man of the Year is Bryce Lindsey. And then the Joe Gottfried Coach of the Year, Richie Riley of South Alabama. Tibbs, did they get these selections right?
Definitely Coach of the Year. I think that Richie Riley has done a great job of finally living up to the hype there of the Jags.
Finally.
I think he has to do it in the postseason, though, to really kind of complete the hype.
Okay.
As far as Player of the Year, it's hard to argue with the guy from Troy. I really like, and he was second team, though, Tylen Pope, having watched him in person several times. I thought he was a complete player and a guy that really was probably one of the better players in the league this year.
Yeah. We talked a little off camera on that. I really liked Barry Dunning Jr. as the Player of the Year. He just frightens me when he's out there. He plays bigger than his 6'6" frame. He can shoot the outside shot. He can penetrate the paint and get you the layup. I like him a lot. What about you, Metlin? Did you think they got these selections right?
I think they did. I think Player of the Year is probably the one that was going to generate the most debate.
Yeah.
And I really, probably for the last few weeks of the season, I was thinking it was down to Miles Tate or Tayton Connerway. And I was leaning more towards Miles Tate really until he and App kind of struggled the last couple of games. And, Connerway just continued to play at the level he had been all year. If you talk to the combination of offense, defense, distributing the ball to the teammates, I mean, the guy's numbers, whether you're talking simple stats like scoring, assists, steals, are incredible. But then when you kind of even like dive into like the more advanced stats, like how efficient you are on both sides of the ball and the box score plus minus, Connerway comes out on top by a fairly decent margin. Like just, his team's Troy outscored opponents more when he was on the floor than anybody else in the league. And, I think it's a good choice. Like he was probably my choice by the end of the regular season.
I think what's something that you'd said, in our own private feeds was without Connerway, Troy isn't very good. Is that a true assessment? Do you believe that's true?
I think so. I mean, and that's not necessarily a knock on.
No, everybody has that.
They have some good players, but they're a team that has a go-to guy, and it's him. Yeah. And Miles Rigsby even maybe wasn't as much of a go-to guy this year as he was expected to be in the preseason. And when Connerway wasn't on the floor, they just had a tough time getting good looks at the basket. I mean, he's just a real difference maker.
Yeah, you like him. In fact, I also saw another exchange where some people were talking about they thought that one of my favorite players, Denijay Harris, kind of I don't know. They felt like he got shafted. He ends up on the second team. Some were saying he was the best player in the league. And you kind of pointed out there was something you pointed out about him. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's up there in points and rebounds, and
Yeah, he's a human double-double.
Leads the conference in rebounds, and it's impressive. And I think Tibbs mentioned Tylen Pope too. There's 7 guys in the league. There's the 5 that made it, and those 2 that any of those guys being first team is kind of hard to like argue against. I think there was a clear top 7, but Harris, for as good as he was in some of those statistical categories, if you do look at stuff like the efficiency numbers, especially on defense, he wasn't even in the top 50 in the league in some like offensive rating and adjusted defense and things like that. And I do know the coaches vote on this. The media doesn't vote on it. None of us vote on this, in this conference. It's a coaches poll, and coaches in general look at efficiency numbers. They love those stats. And I don't know for sure if they looked at that when they were voting, but you look at them rewarding Connerway and not Harris. I think obviously one finishing first and one towards the bottom has something to do with it. But I think some of those other stats that aren't quite as obvious as points and rebounds also played into it.
So, Thibodeau, I have a little bit of trivia for you. You ready?
Sure. $1.
There are 3 significant players in the Sun Belt who are named Miles, and all of them spell their names with a Y, Myles. Miles Rigsby out of Troy, Miles Tate out of Appalachian State, and Miles Corey out of South Alabama. It's a golden age for Mileses, who are, by the way, once they enter into Canada, they're known as kilometer, but that's a different story. Anyway, so Tibbs.
I think we have to mark it explicit on that.
You know what? I've been telling that miles kilometer joke for a very long time, and I never get any laughter out of it. And I think it's the funniest joke. When you say a guy named Miles is known as kilometer in Canada because of the metric system, right? Get it? Jesus.
Shane, on the women's side, Shauna Reagan comes in, 18-0, flawless mark. Was there anybody that you would have considered other than him for Coach of the Year on the women's side?
I think Destiny Rogers, probably up until the last week of the season, they lost a couple games, was maybe right there. If it had been 18-0 versus 17-1, and like Arkansas State being a pretty big surprise, like I could see it going the other way. But once there got to be as much separation at the top of the standings as there was, I think you got to reward the undefeated guy, and also almost getting to be like a lifetime achievement award for O'Regan. He's won 80% of his conference games in 9 years, and this is his first Coach of the Year award. So it's kind of like finally for him.
Yeah, I thought Tibbs too. I thought that was a worthy selection. Although there were some people, at least in around Jonesboro, that said, you know what, Arkansas State was selected to make, or they were picked to finish 13th this year, and here they are. They finished second. They have that long undefeated streak. That has to count for something. I think they made the right pick, but I have to believe that Destiny Rogers got plenty of votes going into that.
Yeah, in any other year, it's probably hers. If JMU's 17-1, it's probably hers. But it's kind of hard not to do it when you win 18 games.
Yeah,
excellent. Wrapping up women's basketball. Any pre-tournament picks that we want to make on who will be lifting that big trophy?
Well, I'll go first. It's going to be James Madison. As much as I like the pluck and the spunk of Arkansas State, as much as I admire sort of the tradition of Troy and what's going on with Coastal Carolina, I just think James Madison's head and shoulders above everybody else in the league right now.
Yeah, I think the Big Russians help lead him to a 20-0 technically conference championship season, and they are a high seed in the NCAA tournament.
Oh, a high seed.
Yeah, I think it's definitely JMU's to lose, and they've just been so focused the last several weeks too. Like, I don't see them come to tournament and not being pretty locked in.
Yeah, you were talking about them getting rattled by Coastal Carolina's press. I'm like, that just doesn't seem like James. I think you're just trying to come up with a storyline there, but I just don't see James.
They got rattled in the tournament last year.
Okay.
That kind of like is where it comes from. But they go out and get 3 guards that can handle the ball in the transfer portal, and it's made a big difference. So I really don't see it happening unless it's just a case of like them being the team that has all the pressure on them once they get to the championship game.
So Tibbs, the Sun Belt had their first, second, and third teams. And I don't know if I want to go through all the members of the first, second, and third teams, but do you, Tibbs, have a Sun Belt first team?
No, I was good with the way actually that the women's side actually shook out. I thought that those were pretty much right on par. Your big Russian, obviously a first team Sun Belter, player of the year, first team, Jacayla Johnson of ULM. I forget her name off the top of my head, and I've already changed off the screen for the Marshall women's basketball player that was also first team. I thought they were spot on.
Let's see. I was going to check to see if there was anybody else there that I thought was off or in any way. Yeah, I feel like everybody was nailed just right on that. All right, but for the men, what about you? For the first, second, and third teams? Do you feel like they came out just right?
I think it was harder on the men's side, probably. Yeah. Like I said, very easily could have put Denaje Harris, Tyler Pope in there.
A lot of people wanted Pope in there. A lot of people.
Yeah, I think you really could have. It did seem like to some degree they wanted to make sure all 4 of those first place teams had somebody on the first team. Because, Mark Freeman, as impressive as he was, as clutch as he was, like just if you're going pure numbers and everything, he easily could have been moved to second team for one of those guys. But I don't think there's any, huge complaints because somebody who easily could have been on first team was going to end up on the second team.
Yeah, I put together my own Hal Razor Sunbelt first team. And I think there's 3 guards on the Sunbelt's version, like the official version. I think I only have 1 guard. Unless Barry Dunning Jr. is a guard. I can't remember. But my first team is Denaje Harris, CJ Huntley, Terrence Ford, who I think has been greatly underrated this year, Isaiah Nelson, who I think is a tremendous big man, and Barry Dunning Jr. That's my Sun Belt first team. I don't know.
I think you got to have Miles Tate on the first team.
Miles Tate. You know what? You've been in love with Miles Tate for too long. He's good. He's good. Tibbs, do you agree with that?
No, I'm done with basketball. I'm on the far left of the bracket, so I'm done with basketball. So we're shifting gears to baseball.
We can move on. Are we moving to baseball? You know what? I'd rather not even talk about baseball. Let's move on to I don't know what else. Oh God, shit! Let's go back to baseball.
The best team in Sunbelt baseball right now is Jeremy.
Is it Troy?
Shane?
Is it South or Southern Miss?
It is not Southern Miss. It is
Troy. 11.
You're 11.
Pay much attention.
You're 11-1, 19th ranked Troy Trojans.
In fact, I think I saw a Baseball America poll. Maybe I saw 3 Sunbelt teams in there. The Chants,
Southern Miss and Troy.
And Troy, yeah. So, all right, looking good.
On the softball side, the hottest team right now, ULM, sitting at 12 straight wins.
No kidding. Wow.
Beating the likes of Memphis out of the AAC.
Okay.
Of course, competing against a lot of Southland teams as well. But at the end of the day, you still got to be able to put the ball in play.
Hey,
Your
man,
10
you're
girls
playing
got to
against
play.
athletes. Yeah.
Coastal Carolina sitting at 16-4 overall. They are the top team right now in the FunBelt standings, even though we have not started conference play yet.
Now, are there any top 25 teams in the Sun Belt right now?
No, there's nobody ranked for softball right now.
Right. Because just like Shane's not paying attention to baseball, I'm not paying attention as much to softball simply because I don't have a dog in that horse race. So, yeah.
That's might be
Did I
a
miss
mix
that
over
number?
there.
Yeah. I am excited about what's going on overall, comprehensively in Sunbelt baseball, though. Like last year, it felt like we were just leaving a lot of high-profile wins off the table, right? Just like we're spending a lot of time getting beat by teams that maybe we should have beat. This year, it seems different. It seems like there's a lot of good wins going around for everybody, except for maybe Arkansas State and James Madison. But although I don't know, maybe James Madison's tearing up too. But it seems like the Sun Belt this year has gotten off to a really good start.
Definitely some big wins. The big win, though, of the past week, we now know the specific order that Sunbelt Conference football will be in for the individual teams, leading to the infamous release videos. Did you get to check any of them out?
No.
I saw some of them.
I was a little confused. I didn't even know there was such thing as a release video. Are there release videos?
Would you like a breakdown of my observations?
Yes,
of
please.
These release videos,
as long as it's scholarly.
No Marshall video, by the way.
Oh man! All
The
right.
Cajuns, of course, had a construction-themed video with the mascots posted in various construction signs around the stadium.
Okay.
The one thing I noticed, of course, ULM's mascot was shown on a cross of a little beam there, almost like it was a sacrificial lamb.
Is there some Christ-like imagery?
Maybe it's a.
Am I reading too much into that?
I don't know. That sounds kind of. I don't know. It seems like something that would be a common sight, though, in the state of Louisiana. If my stereotypical idea of Louisiana fits with what I've just heard, then yeah, that doesn't seem unusual at all.
The Viva La Boobcats were loose in San Marcos with scenes from around the town. Of note, they did have some crawfish for advertising their Louisiana Lafayette game. They dusted the crawfish, though.
And you hate that.
That's apparently a big no-no.
Yeah.
Arkansas State, the weirdest symbol, they were just shown as a tree. Is that because Jonesboro's in the sticks?
A tree? What would that mean? Huh. I'll be puzzling over that all year.
Southern Miss with the traditional, we have a new head coach showcase with a mixture of game clips where they have previously played and beaten some of those schools.
Okay.
App State, to me, was the winner of the videos where they went to a local elementary school to have the kids draw the logos of the teams they were playing. Where James Madison was actually written upside down in the video. And Marshall looked more like a green McDonald's just in time for the Shamrock Shakes.
Perfect. The kids nailed it.
I did.
South Alabama.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Shane.
Oh, go ahead. I'll get mine at the end.
Oh, okay. South Alabama went with the mixed CDs of the fight songs. Of course, they had a parental advisory on the Troy fight song.
Oh.
And the belt made an appearance in the video.
Always got to rub it in.
The slap in the face. They didn't pick ULM, and as one player said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about them."
Yes. Backslap. Elbow from the top turnbuckle. Wow, you can't let that stand, Tibbs.
Georgia Southern, traditional uniforms, traditional video, nothing of note. ULM had to eat their opponents in the schedule reveal. I still don't understand why they did the Quaker oatmeal for St. Francis.
Gotcha.
The defensive lineman, known simply as Pika, offers up his personalized merchandise in the middle of the video. And another head scratcher for Alabama, it was oatmeal cream pies in honor of the retired Nick Saban.
Okay. All right.
There you go. There's your review of the schedule release videos.
That is an excellent review. Go ahead, Shane. You had like some penetrating insight.
I just wanted to shout out Southern Miss for theirs. As Tibbs said, new coach coming off like not the greatest season. Maybe they'd have a lot of highlights or great ideas with, all new players, everything. But they did work in a subtle little thing when they did the App State game with the showing of Welcome to the Rock at their stadium. I thought that was well done to slip that in, like with the dueling rocks.
They're both the Rock, right?
Yeah, for App State visiting Hattiesburg, I thought they did a good job with that. So
good job. Well,
that was my observation.
I will say that Arkansas State did something cute where they had the players go to local businesses making deliveries of the schedule poster, which was nice. One of the guys who delivered the poster, he had a video, he's handing the poster to the proud business owner. He announced today that he was transferring. So, yeah. So I don't know. It seems like if you're going to have a video of a guy, with a schedule poster handing them out, you wouldn't pick the guy that you think might be transferring. But
or if you're the guy who thinks he might be transferring, maybe say, I'm not feeling very good today. Like,
you think that you'd be like, coach, I don't know, maybe get one of the freshmen to do it. Yeah, you might go in that direction. But yeah.
Other news from around the Sun Belt. What else do we have?
I got nothing. I felt like we just talked and talked.
Yeah. It's a sizable episode.
It didn't say anything controversial, but did make mention of Marshall. That was actually that was the goal of the episode. Am I right, Tibbs?
We were all green. We were all thundering. We heard the people say that we were uneducated. We offered nothing to the conference, and that we don't say Marshall enough.
Thundering herd, you have been heard. I wish I didn't say that.
Plugs, promos, and parting shots now. Shane, what do you have for us other than plugging the DNR online?
Let's plug Marshall's Mike Green at the NFL Combine from Marshall.
Yeah.
Mike Green from Marshall, he, I think, has been doing pretty well at the Combine and getting a little pub because he said, I think he was asked if he was the best player in the Combine, something to that regard, and his answer was yes.
Yeah.
And they asked him, well, what makes you say that? And he said, film.
I saw that.
That was Mike Green from Marshall who said that. So that's just shouting him out a little bit. And,
where's he from?
Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I will say this about the Combine. Yeah, I was going to bitch and complain about it, but I'm actually going to bitch and complain about it a little bit. Last year, 7 FunBelt members went to the Combine. This year, 1. Overall, the group of 5 is down 16% when it comes to the NFL Combine. I think everybody should be a little bit nervous about that.
It's because they all transferred to the P5.
I know. Yeah. That's what makes me upset.
Hey, you know who else is advocating for some more Sunbelt representation?
Who?
was NFL star Ray McLeod.
Wow, really?
Well, mainly because he wanted his brother Jordan to get it.
Okay. Yeah, I can see. We never get quarterbacks in there.
Yeah.
But
but I'll count that.
Okay.
My parting shot, guys. I love some Chipotle.
Okay.
The kid that went viral said it best: "Of Chipotle's my life. I love Chipotle." But it's tough economic times. But that still doesn't give them the damn right to start weighing my food as a cost-cutting measure. You know what? If I want 3 scoops of rice, give me 3 scoops of rice. Give me the extra beans.
Yeah.
Quit weighing my damn food. I don't care that I'm eating 10 pounds for lunch. Just give it over. That's all I got for you, really.
You know, Tibbs, when I worked at Burger King back as a freshman in high school, in college, I did a summer at Burger King. And I got into a lot of trouble because I would overstuff the small fries. You know, it comes in that little bag, but I was putting almost the equivalent of a large fry in the small fries. And with the thinking of my mind, I'm giving the people what they want. But management was like, listen, pal, you're giving away too many fries. You know, they're paying for the small fries. They need to get a small order of fries. So maybe that's what that is, Tibbs. Maybe, you know, they see employees out there and they're just heaping your burrito with rice and meat in there. And they're like, we're losing money off of this. This isn't a Tibbs problem. This is the employee's problem. Maybe that's what that is.
So you're saying we can't have it our way, Jeremy?
No. Do I get a parting shot?
Oh, if we have to. I thought you're bitching about something was your parting shot.
No, I was just supporting Shane's parting shot.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. It's a new venture
like
that you have
Burger
marshaled
King
in being.
story I was supporting you with my Burger King story. I was just going to say I've been watching Reacher some more. I know that every week I give you an update on Reacher, and it's getting dumber and dumber. You know, he's undercover, guys, and like it's deep cover. You know, he's supposed to be this bad guy, but he's also supposed to be working with law enforcement. And let me tell you something: he keeps killing people. I mean, he's killed like 5 or 6 guys. I don't know how you can keep killing people and not have it come back on you, which also, by the way, as far as I understand, is still illegal. And he's like breaking them in half so they can fit into small places because he's Reacher. I mean, I don't know about this show. It's as dumb as a rock, Tibbs, but I'm going to watch it next time it comes back on. I'll let you know how it goes.
I'm just glad that Thad Castle made a name for himself after BMS.
Thank God.